Okay. So this is our fourth method. Again, to me, I think of this as a last resort method. It's based on beginning with a standard form. You have to have everything written in standard form in order for the A, B, and C values to play out as they're supposed to. And what the quadratic formula says is what we just proved right in that last page. If you rewrite a quadratic equation in standard form, your solutions for x can be identified by taking negative b plus or minus the square root of the square of b minus 4ac, that whole thing all over 2a. Okay, so sometimes the numbers are relatively easy to work with, sometimes they're a little more difficult. Okay, but if we take that same problem that we started with on the completing the square problem. Right, when you look at this, if you want, you can still simplify everything. So the fact that you can take a 2 out of every single term will give you smaller numbers to work with. I'd suggest you do that. In the example I'm going to go through, I'm not going to, just to show that it doesn't really matter. But I would definitely take this, divide every term by 2 to, again, work with smaller numbers. But if you don't, you just need to identify your A value, your B value, and your C value. The signs carry with those, so you need to pay careful attention to whether it's a positive or negative. And so if you were solving for this, you get a negative b, which was a negative 8, plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared minus 4. A was 2, c was negative 4, and that's all divided by 2a, which was 2. And then it's just a matter of simplifying and performing the calculations. The two negatives cancel, leaving just a positive. When you simplify your radical, negative 8 squared is 64. Minus times a minus, you know you're going to add a value. So if you take this, 2 times a negative 4 is negative 8, times a negative 4 is a positive 32. 2 times 2 in the denominator gives you a 4. Continue to simplify. So now you're looking at adding 64 and 32, so you get a total of 96 inside your radical, all over 4. And now you need to simplify this radical, remove any perfect square factors that you can. Again, it's not necessarily the most common, but you can work your way down using 4s if you want, but 16 times 6 are the factors of 96. So the square root of 16 comes out as a 4. This factor of 6 will stay inside your radical. Okay, now, there's a couple mistakes that tend to happen here. Okay, at this point, one of the most common mistakes is for students to say this 4 and this 4 will cancel. Our answer 8 plus or minus root 6. That's not how it works. And remember, we had a portion of a homework assignment in which we rewrote as the sum of terms. If you have two terms, multiple terms in your numerator and a single term in your denominator, just rewrite as the sum of terms. So this is 8 over 4 plus or minus 4 root 6 over 4. Split it into individual terms, and now you can reduce your fraction. 8 over 4 is 2, plus or minus 4 over 4 cancels, leaving root 6. The other way to do this by hand is to identify all three of these parts here in your single fraction have to have common factors in order to cancel. So if you're just going to cancel here, you need to make sure you pick a number that's divisible by, or that's a factor of all three of these parts. Here the answer is 4, so 4 goes into 4 once, 8 twice. You can do it that way as well. That's the easier way if you understand it, but you can also split it into the individual pieces. So if you compare this to what we did with the completing the square, right here, oops, not right there, right here, which one involved smaller numbers? The completing the square, right? You didn't have to worry about like finding square root factors and everything. I definitely encourage you to try the completing the square before you do quadratic formula. The advantage to having this other method is it allows you to verify an answer that you get using one of the other methods by doing something that's distinctive or something that's different. Anytime you can verify an answer using a different method, you're pretty certain that you got the right answer.